Season 20, the season most considered to be the best of the CGI era, and some even believe it's on par with some of the classic seasons. However, every season has its mediocre episodes, and sometimes even straight up terrible ones.
Health and safety, Percy!
But today, I wanted to give the spotlight to a season 20 episode that most people kind of despise or even forget about, that being 3 Steam Engines Gruff. This episode is known to be one of the weaker ones from season 20, and kind of sticks out when compared to some of the highs from the season. I, however, do enjoy this episode, but not for the story. Instead, for the small things that came with it. Here's a quick summary of the episode, in case you haven't watched it. Thomas is working on his branch line, and notices a broken fence, so he tells Trevor about it. Later that night, he tells everyone at the sheds what happened, making Percy nervous as he wonders what could have broken the fence. As Percy is on his mail run, he approaches the bridge, and that's when he hears a strange noise and rushes back to the sheds. Clearly, some of the engines are annoyed with Percy's behavior, and the next day, Thomas reassures him that there's nothing to worry about. Percy and Toby are concerned, however, as they have to cross the bridge. As Thomas makes his way to Farquhar, he crosses the bridge and finally hears the noise for himself. When he quickly arrives at the station, Percy thinks it might be a troll under the bridge. Then Toby compares it to the story, The 3 Billy Goats Gruff. As they all go to cross the bridge together, Toby rushes first and Percy right after, leaving Thomas behind. But as Thomas starts to cross the bridge, Annie and Clarabelle come to the conclusion that a cow was behind the strange noise, so they rescue the cow and bring it back to the farm. First off, a common complaint about the episode is how the characters are poorly written, which I can agree on to a certain extent. Percy being written as a coward again really rubs some people the wrong way, especially after coming off of Tale of the Brave not too long before this. Toby also had a similar issue, being written as a scared and fragile old man, but that had already been an ongoing issue since the Hit era, and the Brenner era as a whole was infamously known to not be great with continuity and keeping characters consistent all the time either. Another complaint that only came up when this episode first aired was Trevor's voice. Trevor had not spoken for about 11 years up to that point, despite being there day one during the CGI switchover. The time had finally come where we would get to hear what Trevor's voice sounds like, and then he just sounds like this.
Hello, Thomas!
People were really confused as to why he had a southern accent, but it didn't really matter in the end, cause he only spoke in one more episode after this, and that was it. But hey, at least his UK voice is kind of what you would expect Trevor to sound like, and I do prefer it a lot more.
Hello, Thomas!
On to the positives of this episode. This episode almost has a Railway series story kind of vibe, especially with how most of it takes place on the Farquhar branch line, with Thomas, Percy, and Toby taking the spotlight. We've had a couple episodes take place on Thomas's branch line up to this point, but not anything with the original Farquhar trio as the main focus. Sadly, we didn't get any more episodes with this trio together, but that at least helps this episode stand out, at least in terms of the character pairings used in the CGI era. This episode also has a lot of good and humorous moments that I also really appreciate. First, Toby makes a statement about how the trees look like hands, reaching over to grab them like toy trains, which is kind of like a cool reference to real life, where us Thomas fans grab our toys like that. Then something I noticed upon rewatch was this little detail, where you can see Percy shaking a bit as he's leaving the sheds and while he's on his mail run, visually showing us how afraid he is. And yes, I know you might say, they always shake a bit when they're moving, which is true, but when you compare two different scenes, you can see the difference in how the engines are animated. Then there's also the Thomas gulp. But finally, my favorite part of the episode, Henry. Henry honestly has the best moments in this episode. He doesn't do much, and he is portrayed as a coward, but I'm actually okay with this. I feel like this is a hot take, but I honestly prefer this personality for Henry, as he brings a lot of funny moments across various episodes. In this one episode, we get 2 of my favorite CGI Henry moments. First one being when a random pair of leaves whooshes by and covers his eyes. Like, look at James's reaction to Henry screaming. Then there's also this moment. Like, this episode really wanted Henry to feel something, and you kind of start to feel bad for him. And also, while it was most likely unintentional, I do appreciate the love Henry received in season 20 as a whole. It's almost as if they knew he didn't have much time left, so they did the most they could with him before having to remove him from the Steam team. Like I mentioned before, you may not like this episode for its story or because of the way the engines are written, but hopefully after this video, you can recognize a couple things that this episode did that maybe aren't so bad, and you can appreciate it for its positives. And if you still don't like it, or hate it even more now, that's cool too. And even if this is not an episode I come back to often, I'll always remember it for this.